Okay, welcome to a model a day on day 8. This is something a little bit different today because I'm not actually going to show you any modeling. I'm going to show you a model I created yesterday, which was the 8th. This is actually the 9th today as I'm recording this because essentially I spent all day, right to about 10 o'clock last night actually working on this model. It's for a university course I'm doing. It's a concept design for a kind of play park structure. So the idea of this is it's a 12-sided structure and various sides have different ways of climbing up to the second level. There's going to be some ways opened up on the second level that are going to be attached to walkways or rope bridges. And the idea is to have something like maybe 6 of these in a circle, maybe one in the middle, and have them all connected. And there's also a gap in the wall on the bottom where people can go in and play. There may be things like sand pits in there. There may be other kind of educational kind of toys in there. I'm not entirely sure what's going to be in there, but this is essentially the design. And I just want to show you a couple of little things that I did in this design. So I'm just going to hide some of this stuff just now. Let's see, I don't have anything named because I was kind of working on this all day yesterday, so I really didn't take too much time to manage my scene, which is really bad practice, I have to say. So I just want to show you some of these upright pieces. So I'm just going to quickly select these upright pieces. I'll actually just select a bunch of these, and we'll just isolate these. I didn't get them all there, I missed a couple, but that's okay. So essentially the process that I used was I created a kind of base model, which hopefully I can show you. I might have actually hid it. Well, we have isolated everything here. So I made a kind of base model, and as I went along with different iterations, I actually changed the size of it. I figured the scale was actually too small. This was actually about 1.5 meters tall, and then I made that a little bit bigger. It's just over 2 meters, and then the top is bigger. And that all came from looking at reference. It came from researching existing structures and play parks and things like that. And that's kind of what you have to do. So this is one of the main joists, and the way I worked with this is I actually went into edit mode, created this, got the general shape of it, and then what I actually did was I duplicated it using an instance and I rotated it around X by a certain amount. And if you just keep duplicating it and rotating it around, duplicate, rotate, you get a bunch of different versions of it. And the thing you can do is if you decide you need to tweak something in it, you can actually just grab it on one of them, and let's say I want to move this in a little bit to have these meet. I do that on one and they all change. And by doing this kind of radial symmetry, or this kind of radial array of instances of the same model, it actually makes it really easy to tweak things. So let me zoom out again. I did the exact same technique on these models here. So again, I'm going to isolate this. And with a whole radial symmetry of all of these, and you can see the actual origin for these objects is still right in the center. That allows me to rotate them around this axis. So I can duplicate, rotate, and Z. If I don't know the angle, I can hold Control and kind of snap this to a certain point. And once I create a bunch of these together, then I was able to go in, make some cuts where I knew they were actually overlapping, and then I could actually go in and cut out certain parts of them. And that essentially leads me to being able to create parts that would fit together in real life, which is the whole point of this particular model. Let me just add a bevel onto this so we can see things a little bit clearer. Take this down a little bit. I'll add a bevel on here as well, and take this down a little bit just so you can see the separation. And essentially all the models fit together like that. There's no overlapping faces, there's no overlapping verts. Everything is kind of cut in such a way that it's a very simple object. So for example, if I look at this particular object and I look at it from the top view, it's essentially one plank of wood with some chops on the ends and this think, I'm not entirely sure what they call this kind of joint where the wood's essentially split down the middle and you kind of layer them on top of each other. But I figured that would be one of the best ways to go about this. The only thing I've not really done on this model so far is I've not modelled in things like the nuts and bolts that would hold these pieces together, screws, any other fixings, nothing else is in there. For some parts I have thought about the structure. For example, we have these 3 planks on the bottom, and if I look at these and I just kind of pull them apart a little bit, I'll just pull one up, pull this one up a little bit. You can see these all fit together. Again, there's no overlapping parts. They're made as simple as possible. These kind of join in the middle, and that's the structure. You could put a bolt through them. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to end up fixing that. Let me unisolate that. And you can see they actually join onto these parts at the end. So this basically creates the main structure. And then because I have these planks along the bottom, that enables me to put in these parts here. So again, this is just another little model, and essentially we've got a triangle that's a plank of wood, these 2 planks, and we have this plank here, which is extra wide because I had to make a cut to obviously fit this post through, and this would just be attached along here and along here and along here, and that would be the way that would be attached. There would be possibly a way to add an extra little block of wood in there to hold that up. I'll have to look at that when I go to pick materials and think about the way the structure is actually going to take weight. So essentially most of the main structure of this is all going to be solid wood. Things like these planks here, and these panels are possibly going to be recycled plastic. The whole idea of this project, actually, I should point out, is to use sustainable objects, which is why I opted for a wooden structure and not for a steel structure. We have rope nets, again, ladders going up, and I don't really have much else to do on this. I do have this top piece sitting on the top that I've not really thought too much about. It's probably just going to be a wooden plank here and a covering of recycled aluminium, kind of aluminium sheet to kind of pick up the light. Again, as I said, I've not really thought about fixings for these, but we would have some bolts and screws and things like that on this. And that's essentially what I did yesterday. This model, including looking at research, including a lot of trial and error, a lot of iterations, doing things, redoing things. It took around about 8 or 9 hours. I essentially worked from when I got up yesterday morning, from about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, all the way through to 9 o'clock at night, working on a few other things as I went. As I said, doing some research, doing some actual essays that are involved in the actual project itself. And this is going to make up a final pitch that hopefully I'm going to show you next week. It's due on Monday, so I'll be working on that a little bit more today and a little bit more tomorrow to hopefully get it finished. And yeah, so that's what I did yesterday. So a little bit of a different video today. Hopefully I'll be able to show you a really good render of this next week. I won't be able to show a render of it today because essentially we have no textures on it yet. One thing I do want to just quickly show you before I go, I'm going to not save this. I do want to show you this version of the file. So this is a version that I've done where I've actually went in and I've added freestyle edges to everything. So if I go to edit mode, you can see all these green edges are freestyle edges. And I picked this particular object to show that because there are certain edges I don't want freestyle edges on. And what this allows me to do is if I go into my camera, which is actually set up as an orthographic camera, if I just go into the camera settings here, we'll be able to look at that. For some reason my camera settings aren't coming up because I'm in edit mode. Let's click on that again. So I've got this set up to an orthographic camera. I have freestyle turned on. We have 1 pixel line width. And if I go into my passes and we have all these freestyle settings, I've got this set up for edge mark. There's also different things we can do with the line edges. Let me just turn off the stroke that I've got set up there and I'll show you this one thing. So I'm just going to do a very quick render of this. So I've got a white background. Well, it's actually a little bit grey, and I have black freestyle edges here. And you can see I've actually created a section here. So the way I've done that is I actually have the camera set up with the clipping plane changed. I can actually start rendering from halfway through this model, and that gives me a section. If I take that off and re-render, this will just take a little second. The freestyle stroke rendering on a complex object like this can take a little while. For here you can see that we have our just regular side view, and you can see the model. Essentially what I'm going to have to do with this is take the section, the side view, the top view, all of these renders I've already done, and take them into Photoshop, and then I have to add in all the dimensions for all the main features of this, which is going to be pretty time consuming. It's going to take up quite a lot of my time tomorrow. One other little thing I'll just show you is you saw that I did a section view. There are things hidden behind these panels that I will want to show up in some of the views, and we can actually use these splitting sections here. So I'm going to split this by 6 units and then leave a gap of 12 units. I'll just show you what this does. This essentially gives us a dotted line. So if you know anything about drawing mechanical plans, elevations and things like that, if there's a line that you want to show in an image, but you can't see it through another object, you want to draw it with a dotted line. So this actually allows me to create a freestyle view with these dotted lines, and then I can just go into Photoshop, put this on another layer, mask it, and then just unmask the bits where I want these lines to show up. Again, that's something I'll show you next week. So yeah, something a little bit different today. Yeah, it was a very time-consuming model because I put a lot of effort into it. I never cheated on anything. A model like this, if I was just throwing it together for a render, there would be a lot of cheating going on here. But everything I've had to actually model the way it would be built in real life, and I've had to kind of stick to certain dimensions and certain sizes and things like that. So it has been a bit of a challenge. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this little video for today. I hope maybe you've learned a little bit of something from the freestyle and maybe from the orthographic camera, and maybe thought a little bit about how you'll structure your models in future, especially using instances and symmetry and things like that. So I'll see you tomorrow for the next video.